Well, the National Republican Congressional Committee has a nasty Christmas surprise for Joe Biden and Democrats, a holiday-themed ad buy that ties supposedly vulnerable Democratic candidates to the president's floundering economic agenda. Here's an example of what some Americans might be seeing this holiday season. Each ad reads, "Bidenomics ruined Christmas," alongside an image of a Democratic candidate wearing a festive Santa hat. The ad urges voters to stop supporting reckless government spending, fueling inflation. So the Republicans trying to make the economy the issue, obviously polls showing Biden is very vulnerable on this point. Probably a smart ad.
I was gonna vote just to uphold, to have abortion rights and to uphold the social safety net, protect Obamacare. But when I saw that Congress member who I didn't immediately recognize wearing a Santa hat with the word Bidenomics next to her. Oh, Mary Pelota, sorry. I now want to stay home or vote for Donald Trump. Look, Biden is obviously having problems, but I don't know that this sort of an ad is actually getting at what they want. The reason people are furious at Biden, what reason his voting base is furious at Biden, has to do with the not inflation as an abstraction, but the administration trying to make excuses and gaslight people into believing that their lives are okay. Inflation is down. That is scientifically, economically,
down from the
reality.
highs. It's come down a little bit.
I don't want to misquote the reality, but it's basically on par for where it was 4 years ago. Now, is my understanding, something like that.
We're getting there.
But the problem is that people's life experiences over the course of the Biden administration have been bad because inflation has been on the rise for most of the administration. And two, that spending is high in specific sectors regardless if inflation is down, so that people's life experiences as they try to buy cars, as they try to buy houses, as they try to buy an education for their children, as they try to buy food, is still very difficult. So the frustration is in the tone deafness of the Biden administration, not some Trump person who has, or some Republican who has absolutely no plan for putting money in people's pocketbooks, to come and say, but I don't like Bidenomics. Don't you hate Bidenomics? No, what they should actually do is run videos of Biden gaslighting the American public about Bidenomics. And also, and this is why Republicans are really in a pickle, because they can't really push Biden on this one because they agree with him. People are mad at him for his foreign policy. They're mad at him for spending a lot of money in Ukraine when he vetched and moaned for 3 years about how he couldn't get Build Back Better passed and he couldn't have any money to spend for Americans, and he reneged on his promises on student loans and the promises around the stimulus checks and the like. At the same time that he says, no, I'm going to go around the congressional process to make sure that Ukraine and Israel continue to get money. And in the case of Israel, while there was a lot of public support for Ukraine and I think deserved sympathy for the people of Ukraine who faced an invasion, none of that support is flying out of the window in Israel, as we're continuously told that the real tragedy of 1,000 people being killed on October 7th merits limitless slaughter of Palestinian civilians that now has gotten to the 20,000 person number.
There is, just like there is sympathy for the people of Ukraine, there is a lot of sympathy for what the people of Israel suffered on October 7th.
66% of Americans want a ceasefire.
That doesn't mean there's not sympathy for the Israelis.
Yeah, but there's sympathy that's waiting. It is almost impossible to have a conversation. It feels, frankly, out of touch to have a necessary and deserved conversation about the human tragedy of October 7th when you're looking at literally 20,000 times the human loss that's happening miles away in Gaza that has been done with American bombs and American money. It is a disservice, frankly, to the lives lost on October 7th that there wasn't any time that was spent engaging in that tragedy before immediately a ethnic cleansing campaign began on behalf of Israel. And that is why people are upset at Biden.
I mean,
you don't have to agree with them, but that's why people are upset.
Certainly a lot of young Democrats are upset with Biden over that, for sure. I don't know that these ads are really directed at them. They're directed at people who are primarily looking at pocketbook issues. I mean, I agree with you. The hypocrisy on
right?
The hypocrisy on defense spending is something I call out all the time on the show. Republicans don't have much of a leg to stand on because they talk the talk when they're not in power, but when they do have power, they don't try to constrain spending really on any front, but especially defense, in any meaningful way. So I can't I can't imagine the voter who would believe them this time, but the Republican pitch is that too much government spending on again, it's a hypocritical pitch, but has contributed to inflation. All these things you're talking about are things costing too much. Education, for instance, massively government subsidized. We're not getting better quality. We're just getting more out of control costs. We're not getting better quality. No one is happy with the education system. The housing system, everything is getting more expensive. Food is getting more expensive. People are having a harder time paying for things, and they don't feel like they're paying for better things. They feel like they're getting the same or worse quality than they used to. You're right that the idea that everything's getting better, well, in some respects, the world has, the economy, the country has gotten, better in the last 50 years. Obviously, we have access to better technology, but better quality technological goods in a lot of places. But service-intensive industries are things that rely on a lot of actual manual labor, like the medical system, like schooling, have really suffered a lack of innovation in some really key ways, and people just have to pay more. And it's not any better, and that's that's
and their
not
wages
specifically
haven't kept up.
It's not specifically narrowly Biden's fault, but the pitch that everything's great, we don't have these fundamental problems, please shut up about it. Trump is Hitler, remember, is just not going to work.
Well, it's the everything's great.
Right.
I think a lot of people wouldn't fault. Presidents are largely not responsible for the economy. Let's just be honest.
And we can
be
too doom-oriented and say oh, this is the worst. People look at the past with rose-tinged
ebbs and flows, and everybody takes credit for what they take credit for, and blame people for what they blame them for. But the thing that I think Biden can be rightly faulted for is not happening to be president in the wake of a pandemic when there was inflation that was largely out of his control. It's gaslighting people about it. So the political message has to actually hit Biden about what he did wrong. What he did wrong wasn't inflation, which is down. What he did wrong is not working harder to use the same energy that he's using to provide bombs to Israel to drop on Palestinians to work to do things like cancel your student debt. So there was this interesting story that just came out in The Intercept, which looked at the role that student debt cancellation or the lack thereof specifically is hurting Biden with young voters. And look at this. For voters under 45, as of November 30th, voters burdened with student debt under the age of 45 preferred Trump over Biden by 3 points. Voters who don't have student debt chose Biden by 9 points. So people who are going to be directly affected by the student debt policy have this significantly lower estimation of Joe Biden, or significantly more likely to say, screw him, I'm going to go with the other guy. Now, you can read this data in whatever way you want, but every single time I am looking in the comment section of a pop culture video, I can be on TMZ, I can be on the Shade Room. I was recently out having drinks, and I heard two young black women having the same kind of conversation. Everyone's talking about how upset they are about their student debt. And it might not be a direct conversation that this is Biden's fault, but the student debt payments starting in September were kicking people's butts. People, whatever you think about them, they're lazy, they shouldn't have majored in pottery, they suck, they should be thrown into the pits of hell, we hate these Americans, whatever.
You're reading my mind.
I don't really care. The point is that these are voters that both parties need to be trying to get. And they are struggling because they have $400 to $3,000 more a month that they're now being asked to pay that they haven't paid since Donald Trump was president. And trying to say, well, people are in better economic straits now than they were when they didn't have to pay that money, because when Donald Trump was president and he suspended those student loan payments and Joe Biden made the choice to turn them back on, he did not have to turn them back on. He could have waited till a Republican was in office and that they could have taken the blame for that. He's paying for it.
That might be the case, but Republicans, it's a fundamental. Republicans can't take the position that we're going to, forgive everyone's student loan debt. They can promise to reform the system or stop funding the student loan package, but they can't. They can't say that they're going to do something. They can. I wouldn't advise it.
Right. No, I'm just speaking to the reason why people are upset with Biden.
Biden is governing maybe a difficult or maybe impossible to manage coalition that he doesn't want to give those people what they want.
I don't think it's a difficult coalition because, again, everything I cite, majorities of Americans support. Biden is making a choice that's based off of his donors' needs, not whether or not it's popular with the American public.
All right, that does it for us. More Rising right after this.